Hey everybody, it's Efrem Smith. Welcome back to another episode of City Beats. So glad you're here, and I hope that you have been checking this out. Tell somebody about it. We are about talking about issues that impact the city. Some of these episodes in the future, we're going to be out of this space and we're going to actually be out in the city of Sacramento talking to business folks, people in the political realm, community organizers, people that are just trying to serve and bring love and compassion and justice to the city. It's going to be awesome. And for a pastor like me, I'm always trying to figure out how can I understand the heartbeat of the city so that I can do a better job of engaging the city and also being a vehicle of God's love, God's truth, God's compassion, God's justice as a pastor. I don't want to draw a line in the sand and paint the subcultures of the city as the enemy. I want to really engage the city that I love. I grew up in the city. I'm an urban dude, for real. And so that's why I'm hoping that this will be a blessing to you and you'll tell some folks about it. Okay, on this episode, we are talking about love in the city. That's right. You know, I think about those love songs in the 70s where like Barry White, he'd have a deep voice and the song would start and he'd talk down like this. Hey, baby, you know what I'm talking about. That's what we're talking about on this episode. Love in the city. Yes. So what better guest to have on City Beats than the love of my life, my wife for 26 years, been together since high school. Say what? Donecia NorwoodSmith.
Awesome. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And this should be a hot episode.
Man, I'm nervous because, you know, I have done radio shows before. This is not my first podcast episode. I've facilitated panel discussions, but I have never, ever interviewed my wife or been on any kind of podcast or radio show episode with my wife. So this is going to be interesting. This is going to be... You could tell my business. People will be like, oh, I hope she tells all his business. I'm nervous.
You're nervous?
A little bit.
Well, you don't have to be nervous, honey. You can hold my hand.
Oh, okay. Oh, but we'll do that too. But okay, all right. Since we're talking about love in the city. So, but before we get to that, I want people to know a little bit more about what you do. Not only am I a pastor in Sacramento, I've had on previous episodes Bob Ballion, who I co-pastor with, and he'll be on some future episodes as well. But besides serving as a co-pastor of an urban church, I also am a co-owner of a company with you called Influential, and you are a life coach. So before we even get in the topic, why don't you talk a little bit about what is a life coach? Why did you step into that profession? Why are you trying to influence the lives of other people?
Absolutely. I served in education for over 25 years, working as a college and career center coordinator. I did that up until we moved to Sacramento, of which you are aware. However, once we got here, I felt a tugging on my heart to do something a little bit deeper. And with Influential LLC, our company, I'm able to coach people and motivate them and inspire them to reach deeper inside themselves and realize their dreams and potential. I came to that conclusion after serving as, of course, your wife, and being a first lady at Sanctuary Covenant Church, the church we planted in Minneapolis, and just feeling a deep desire and need to mentor and coach pastor spouses who may be trying to figure out what it is that God is calling them to alongside their husband who is serving as senior pastor. What's my role? What's my purpose? How do I find it? Where do I fit in? What's meant for me here too in this role? And so out of that was birthed just opportunities for me to coach and minister and lead women and help them just discover what it is deep inside them that they want to do.
So how would somebody know that they need a life coach? Because some people might be very familiar with, I go to a pastor, so like in African-American church culture and urban church culture, people might say, I'm going through some things in my life, so I want to meet with my pastor. I want my pastor to pray for me. Or someone might go, oh, I go to a therapist. I go to a counselor. Help people understand why would I need a life coach? How would a life coach be helpful to someone as they navigate their professional life, their personal life, etc.?
Sure. Well, most of my clients, answering your question, most of my clients are always like, tell me what to do. Tell me how to fix it. And they know that there's a void that's missing, but that void is not quite on the level of therapy or counseling. It's more of a mentor type role or position they want someone to play in their life to help them really help dig deeper and scratch into what it is they are desiring to do. A coach, in my position, we actually ask challenging questions, insightful questions to bring about further awareness and development to help the person figure it out. Bottom line.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I'll just put in the plug. So if you want to know more about life coaching, about even consulting, speaking, stuff like that, you can check us out at influentialglobal.com. Influentialglobal.com. So there's the plug right there. And I think she's a great life coach. I know I might be a little biased, but I think she's pretty good. And so check out influentialglobal.com. So let's get to the topic, love in the city. So I wanted to talk about this because in urban culture, in the city, I'm wondering if we need to talk about, present more examples of like sustaining, healthy love. I mean, we both grew up in the city in Minneapolis, grew up on hip hop music, grew up on love songs. So, I mean, we're still in that generation of Stevie Wonder, and Luther Vandross, Earth, Wind, and Fire. But then in hip hop, I mean, I can still remember like Houdini singing, one love, one love. You're lucky just to have just one love, one love, one love. You're lucky just to have just one. Now you listen to hip hop music and it's like, I mean, I hate to say this, but it's like strip clubs and shake that thing, pop that thing, get it, something. Doesn't sound like love. It just sounds like go to the club, go to the strip club, go be a player, you know. And so it's like, man, have we lost this sense of like, what is like sustained, committed, deep love look like in the urban context? I mean, now in some ways, love is love wherever you are.
Absolutely.
In the country, in the suburbs, in the city. But I mean, there are urban subcultures, so we can say whether it's hip hop culture or whether it's being in other parts of subcultures that are urban, that are city. There's projections that we get. I mean, you could even go beyond hip hop and go, remember the show Sex and the City, which was mainly about a group of seemed like privileged, wealthy, white women that were navigating a bunch of relationships, but it seemed more sexual in nature and just kind of social. But can I still one day have the love of my dreams? And it was a HBO series, and then I think they did 2 or 3 movies at the movie theater or something like that on it too. So it doesn't have to just be hip hop or black culture. So that's why I wanted to do this show and talk about love. You and I have been watching this show on Oprah Winfrey Network called Black Love. And so I've been fascinated with it because there's so many mixed messages put out there about African American culture and relationships and love. And I was tired of, I didn't want to see another Flavor of Love. I didn't want to see another Love and Hip Hop, Real Wives of Atlanta, but yet half of them aren't even wives. So for you, why was Black Love, that show on the Oprah Winfrey Network, like a draw for you, like hit you in some meaningful way?
Well, oftentimes we don't have enough positive symbols or reflections of what Black love is and what Black love is not. I appreciated the context in which the couple shared raw, real issues that they struggle with, they plagued with, even in their courtship process. Issues of dealing with your finances and family and career, because that's all real as you're trying to navigate your relationship and as you become one with this other person. So So just hearing their story and their testimony, and being able to not only hear their stories and identify with those, but also identify with their ethnicity, really hit my heart that there is a place, there is a voice, and there's a void to be filled with what's needed in the context of African American culture.
Yeah. All right, let's just go ahead and just dive in how we fell in love.
Ooh.
So we met in high school.
We did.
So I was good friends with your uncle.
Now tell it right.
So that's going to be, people are going to say, well, how did that happen? Well, your biological father, his dad was a pastor.
He is, yes.
And the pastor's name was Edward Berry Sr., and he had 11 kids.
Total.
One being your biological father.
Yes.
And so that's how you could have an uncle that was your same age, just
yes.
about.
Actually, we are a month and 3 days apart. He's older by that much.
Yeah. So his name, that uncle, Doug, he and I were good friends, and I met you through him in high school in North Minneapolis. And so my version of the story is I saw you, like, I think when you were a sophomore, and I was like, oh yeah, that's nice, that's Doug's niece. And then I saw you again when you were a junior in high school, and I was like, who is that? And Doug was like, that's my niece. And he said, don't mess with her. And I said, oh, okay, I won't. But but I would see you in the library, and I think I jokingly would say, you're gonna be my wife.
Yes.
Did I say that?
You did.
So I was prophesying.
Or prophet lion.
So you know, we started dating my senior year in high school, your junior year in high school, and do you remember, when did I tell you I loved you? Did I tell you, like, soon? I can't remember. Did I write a note and say, will you go with me? Check yes, check no. I think in the hallway of high school one day I asked you.
Yeah, that was all early though. The note, will you go with me, check yes or no, that kind of thing. That was like early in the school year, after school had started. But the whole I love you thing started to kind of transpire more and more, I would say, after like Thanksgiving and Christmas time that year. Yeah.
So, and you know, that raised the question, can you really love somebody in high school? I mean, is it like a real sustainable, healthy love, or is it just you feel something, you think you're attracted to somebody, you're in high school, you kind of want somebody to love you, you want to love somebody. I'm trying to think, did I even really know how to love somebody? Like, what was I really thinking? I think I told you on the phone I loved you.
No, you told me several times in high school.
Yeah, but I'm saying the first time I think I told you on the phone.
Yes, on the phone, and then later in a note, and then again in person at school.
And I think I told you I loved you before you said you loved me back.
Absolutely.
So why is that? Why didn't you, as soon as I said I love you, why didn't you say I love you too?
Because I can honestly say then, at that moment, I love the idea of us. When you're in high school, it seems like everyone around you is in a relationship. And of course, every girl wants to be liked. Every guy wants to be liked and be connected to someone because that's what you see your friends doing. But it doesn't mean that you're actually in love with that person. You're in love with the idea of being in love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I said, I don't know if this is still true now for teenagers. I think there's some movies out there and shows, but I just, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and they were like, movies like St. Elmo's Fire and The Breakfast Club and Fast Times at Ridgemont. It just seemed like there was all these Ferris Bueller, like all these like movies that depicted high school and even like some African American movies. There were movies in the 70s like Cooley High.
Oh my goodness, yes.
You know what I mean? And then later would, come movies like in the, like Boys in the Hood and stuff like, but I think in high school I was just thinking, man, I'm seeing all these movies and all these images of like teenagers in high school, whether it's teenagers in white suburbs or teenagers in the inner city. And it just felt like, oh, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get a girlfriend and you're supposed to like talk to her on the phone and put some soft music in the background and go, girl, you know I love you. And not even really know what the purpose or the I mean, I'm bringing this up to say that part of maybe the challenge with love is people throw that out there, not really knowing what does it really mean. Why are you really saying it?
Absolutely. I think people are very premature with it. And it goes back to what I said earlier about people are just enamored with the idea of being in a relationship when they mistake that being in a relationship for love, because it's not necessarily love. It's probably more so infatuation or just that physical attraction. That kinesthetic energy that you have when you're with someone doesn't necessarily mean it's that deep-rooted love that comes, from an intimate relationship over a long period of time.
Yeah. So, when did you know you loved me? Like, when did you think you loved me for real?
I would say I felt or thought I loved you for real probably just before you graduated high school.
Oh, right. You mean right before we broke up?
Yeah. You want to talk about that?
No, not really. I mean, that's probably
so.
another. So, we actually broke up. So we started dating in high school, we dated in college, we were married right after college, but we broke up 3 times?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, so this is really bad. I'm just gonna confess this now, but I mean, I was in high school, I was an immature boy. What would I know? So we're going out, and one day I'm walking you home after school, and you said, hey, can we stop and sit? We were walking through a park. So to walk you home, you were walking distance from the high school we went to. I actually lived across town. So I had to catch a school bus, but you walked to school. And so I was calling myself walking you home. I don't know, thinking maybe we was going to stand by a tree and kiss or something. Something. So
always misbehaving.
Yeah, I love Jesus now though. Well, so I was thinking I'm going to walk you home. And we're walking through this park, and you stop us, and we end up sitting on a park bench. And I think I got this right. You said to me, "Look, these are my priorities: God first, family second, school."
That's correct.
And you said that I was kind of messing up your priorities.
That is indeed right. You were tossing around that word love so much that I wasn't prepared for it, and prepared for everything that came with what that might mean. So, in order for me to process and stay focused on what was important to me at that moment, you were kind of infringing on my priorities.
Wow. So that brings up an interesting thought of as someone might be exploring love or feeling love or expressing love, or somebody's saying they love them. It's not only about like, what does that mean? Like if you say you love somebody, what's really at the foundation of that? What's the motives? What's the purpose? What's leading you to say that? It's got to be more than just, well, I kind of feel something in my tummy. The other thing is, if somebody's expressing love to you and you're thinking about if you love somebody, is that in any way pulling you away from what you have already decided are the priorities in your life? And if someone hasn't decided what their values are, what their principles are in their life, what their priorities are, then anybody could probably just come and say, I like you, I love you, and you'll just go wherever the love yous go. You'll just go be blown back and forth. Wherever I like you, I love you, why don't we hang out? But it seemed like you had these values, these priorities that would cause you to say, I'm willing to put a pause on this relationship.
Oh, indeed. And let me also just throw in this caveat of my mom. I had a crazy urban mama who would say, if you're out there messing around, having sex, doing anything that's not right, I kill you. I knew she literally didn't want to kill me, but I took it as my mom sees something in me, right, that is so important that she doesn't want me to get derailed. And so that was always also in the back of my mind as I'm processing, what does this relationship mean? And so when you were saying, I love you at that time in my life where I'm like, I'm still processing, what is love? What does love mean to me? And is this love between us? It may not have been the best move. We probably should have talked about it a little bit more, but the best move for me at the time was to tell you, these are my priorities, which they were. Very solid. I was very solid in my faith at the time. School was 100% on the forefront of my mind. I knew I'm going to college. So I didn't want anything to take that away from me at that time. And we were young.
So what happens is we break up.
We break up.
So this is where I'm confessing this is bad.
Oh,
okay?
you did me dirty.
This is where the story gets good. So when she broke up with me, I decided, ladies and gentlemen, that I would work as hard as I could to get her back. And then once I got her back, I would then devise a plan to break up with her so that she would feel as bad as I felt when she broke up with me. That's what I did. So I just decided to just play this role of I care about God too, just like you. I care about school too. I'm going to get my grades up. I'm going to go to church more. I'm going to read my Bible and pray. I'm going to show her that my priorities are just like her priorities so we can get back together because God is first for me too. Family is second for me too. School is third for me too. See, we can be together. We have the same priorities. We get back together, and then the night before I was going to graduate, because I was a senior, she was a junior, the night before we were going to graduate, I called her on the phone and broke up with her.
Just so dirty and petty.
Yes.
Just petty.
See, just send this, I got you back. How you feel now? Ha, whoop. There it is. That's what I did. That was wrong.
This is why it's called City Beats right there.
Yeah, City Beats right there, because you wanted to give me a city beat. You wanted to give me a city beat down. That's what you was like, I'm going to give you a beat down in the city for doing this to me. That's why I did it on the phone, I think.
You did it on the phone.
So
Dirty.
we're broken up. Then what's crazy is that summer before I went to college, I realized, no, I really do want to be with this young lady. And so you went off to some kind of summer camp for math and science.
Yes.
And
see priorities.
And so and so I found out from your mom where you were. You probably mad at your mom that she gave me the number to call you at that summer camp on a college campus. And at first, I don't think you even wanted to talk to me.
Oh, no, I didn't.
You didn't take my calls.
I was later for you.
Yeah, you're done with me. And then, but right before I went to college, we came back together again.
We did.
So then we're together, and then we broke up a third time.
You want to tell the people why?
No, maybe you should tell this story.
So, again, remember in the story that Efrem is a year older than me. Oh, bless your heart. A year older. And so his time away from college, he would either write me a letter or give me a phone call or even sometimes drive another hour back to the city to come and see me because where he went to school was very close. After a while, I noticed that the phone calls had stopped coming. I noticed that the letters had stopped coming. And furthermore, the I love yous had slowed way, way back.
Really?
Really. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not like.
So I started to put two and two together. I said, he is seeing somebody else. So let me just craft this Dear John letter or Dear Efrem letter and let him know exactly how I feel. And so at the end, I said, and God bless.
That's right, because usually you would write a letter and say,
I love you.
Donecia, or I love you, Donecia. I get this letter in the mail at college, and at the end of the letter just says, peace, Donecia. Like, peace?
Yeah.
What happened to I love you?
Nope, it was no more I love you.
Like peace out?
Right. And so, of course, once you receive a letter like that, what happens? My phone rang.
Yeah, I called you. I was like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, you know what's going on.
Yeah, you was like, what's her name? And that's why we need to break up, basically.
Indeed.
And, okay, so I had a friend. She was from the Bahamas. I wouldn't call her my girlfriend.
You made a friend.
But she was, okay. So anyway, that's another reason why I deserve to be broken up with.
Absolutely. But he loved me, though.
I did. And so, but by the time I was at the end of my freshman year in college, we were back together again.
We were.
Yep.
By God's grace.
And it was really at that point. I mean, once we were on the same college campus, I realized that, man, this woman, she loves Jesus. She's serious about school. Man, it just seemed like, you were on a mission. I didn't know exactly what you were going to become, exactly what you were going to do, but I knew you were going somewhere. You were, but I would say your commitment to the Lord, your commitment to church, and that you were determined to do something with your life. I mean, you graduated in 3.5 years from college, went right into the workforce, working on a community college campus.
Correct, yeah.
And I was still trying to figure out what I was going to do. I mean, I was working in admissions at a college campus. Then I was, soon after we were married, I felt this call into ministry, into the church world, and became a youth pastor over time. But let's back up to, see, this is so bad. I am good at like the date of our wedding anniversary, but I am like horrible. So I know that we were married on a Saturday, February 13th, 1993. It was about 4:30 or so in the afternoon.
That is correct.
It was snowing lightly at
beautiful.
Park Avenue United Methodist Church in Minneapolis. I can still remember your dad walking you down the aisle towards me. He had a red bow tie on and a red cummerbund, and your Uncle Doug, who I met you through, was one of the groomsmen.
Yes.
He's standing up there. Dennis Carter was the best man.
Yes.
See, I can remember all that. Why is it I cannot remember the date or time that I asked you to marry me? I know it was in South Minneapolis. It was on this kind of this parkway, or that was like kind of halfway in between Lake Nokomis and Lake Calhoun. And we were on a bridge, and that's all I can remember. I can't tell you what day it was, what time. Do you remember that? Like when I asked you to marry me, do you remember the day, the time, the date, any of that?
Yeah, I remember the date very well.
Okay.
It was August 14th, 1990.
Okay.
Yes. Nice warm summer day in the city of Minneapolis. And I remember you were running behind in time, and so I picked you up. You're like, let's go over here by Minnehaha Creek.
Yeah, I think by that time you were driving, because I was driving. My dad had given me this 1978 white Oldsmobile to drive, and I think right around that time the transmission went out.
Oh, completely out.
So I couldn't drive anymore. So you had to drive. You had the car at that point.
Yes. So I remember picking you up, and you're like, okay, let's go over here to the creek for a moment. I want to talk to you about something. I was like, well, what? Because we're late for dinner and the food's going to be cold, and you know how my mother is. But you wanted to talk, and I knew at that time you were really wrestling with your call to be in ministry, and we had a conversation about ministry.
Yeah, before we talk about the engagement, we should back up and say, I remember we were on the college campus, and I don't know if we were going on a date that evening, going out to dinner or a movie, but we were either going to eat dinner or something like that, and you told me that evening there were 3 people you did not want to marry. And what were those 3?
And they were a police officer, a fireman, and a pastor, because they all could get called away in the middle of the night, and we don't know what goes on in the middle of the night.
Wow. Yeah, that's so. And I said to you, you don't have to worry about me. I'm not going to be any of those people. So I'm not going to be a police officer. I'm not going to be a fireman. I'm not going to be a pastor. I'm not even going to be a mailman. You don't have to worry about me, because I was a theater and communications major at the time. So I was thinking, I had these dreams that I was either going to be one of those anchor people on the news, or I was gonna be a DJ, or I was gonna be an actor or a director or something like that. I mean, I knew that I just loved theater and the arts. I didn't know that that was preparing me to be up before people in a different way, and to do something that in some ways there is a deep connection, I think, between the arts and worship and preaching and good communication.
Yeah.
But I was going to end up doing something different than I thought I was going to do at the time. So I was not trying to fool you. I really was not thinking I was going to be a pastor. But we'll blame your grandfather for
blame
that.
him.
We'll blame him for that. So going back to then August 14th, 1990, in the afternoon. So it must have been close to dinner time.
Yeah, dinner time.
And I do remember this because was it a weekend or a week?
We had just got back from Honey Rock Camp.
So I had called your mom and dad, I think a day or two before, and asked them if I could ask you to marry me. And right before that, I also had a conversation with my mom and dad, letting them know that I wanted to marry you. And this was the summer before my senior year and the summer before your junior year in college.
No.
Was it further
This was
than
going
that?
into my sophomore year of college.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Because we were engaged for
almost three
years, which I do not recommend that.
No, we do not.
I don't.
No.
I don't. I know people that they meet each other and like in 3 months they're engaged, and I think that's kind of fast. I mean, I know some people that has happened. I mean, we know a couple that they met and like within months, like less than 4 months, they were engaged, and then they got married, and it's going fine. I just don't know if that's normal for everybody else, and I also don't recommend the extreme we had, because they're look, especially if you're trying to live what they call holy. You know, live by the Bible.
Yes, Lord.
You know, if you're trying to live Christian, if you're trying to do that, it is ooh-wee to be engaged for 3 years.
Very challenging.
Very challenging. But we did it.
We did.
We did it. But I wouldn't recommend that. We probably should have waited until my senior year, your junior year, or, you know, right after I graduated. But we were engaged right before my junior year. So do you remember how you felt as a sophomore in college, and you're like, I'm engaged? Like, why'd you say yes that early to me to get married?
Well, by that time, we'd already been together for what seemed like, 2.5 years. Yeah. Almost, yeah, even on and off with the couple breakups. But we had been together 2.5 years, and I really felt like I heard from God that you were the one. You were the one that
so
he
there's
has.
that God thing again.
Yeah.
It was because of God you broke up with me, and because of God you said yes to marry me.
He had to raise you up a little bit more.
God had to work on me.
Yes.
God had to work on me.
Yeah, but it was just became more and more apparent that you were the one for me. You know, you challenged me to become better, to be more vocal, to try new things, to be more adventurous. I was very introverted, more shy, not willing to take many risks. And so there was this part of you that even still that I find very appealing, very attractive, that it inspires me to be better. And that's what you did early in our relationship, probably not even out you're knowing it, but you inspired me to be better. And so you want to be with someone who challenges you to be a better human being, to do things that you would never try or do as far as your career, your personality, to step out in faith, to be a little bit risky, that's not going to harm you. And that's what you did for me early on in our relationship. I remember when I was hating school and you're like, well, you know, you got to get involved. You challenged me to get involved to make things better on campus. And maybe you said, and by doing so, you might like it more. You said that helped me. Maybe you should try it. And I was like, begrudgingly, okay, I'll try it. But these folks get on my nerves. But I tried it. And what happened, I got involved in the Joint Events Council on campus and became a speaker agent. I don't know anything about speaking, but that afforded me an opportunity to be stretched, to try something new, to meet new people, to branch new relationships, and discover things in myself that I didn't know existed.
That's right. Were you a part of bringing Maddie Rich?
Maddie
the
Rich.
Director that did, what did you do, Straight Outta Brooklyn?
Yes.
Yeah, you brought a film director to our college campus.
I can't believe you still remember that.
I still remember that. Maddie Rich. So it's funny because that was such a mature, deep answer. And I'm thinking, oh, I want to marry her because she loved God. She loves football.
I do.
She's pretty, and man, she can cook. So I didn't have like you had such a deep, well thought out, and I was just like, oh man, last time she invited me and my roommate over, and her roommate Rosie, cooked us this meal, and I was like, oh my gosh, she loves football, she loves God, she can cook, she's pretty. So it just shows you how guys mature so much later. So we get married, because I remember this date good, February 13th, 1993, 4:30 something in the afternoon, snowing lightly. Still remember us getting in a limo afterwards. And it was funny. I remember us being so hungry.
Oh my gosh.
Because, you still had your wedding dress on. I had my tux on. So I remember we went to the wedding reception. It was at the Danish American Center. So I guess that's the best place to have a black wedding reception. At the Danish American Center in South Minneapolis. And
it was cozy.
And they had barbecue.
Yeah, we had barbecue.
So we were hungry, but I remember we didn't really want to eat much because you didn't want to spill barbecue sauce on your dress. It felt like everybody was looking at us.
Right.
So you're like, so how does that look? Everybody's staring at us. We just got married. It'd be funny if I have some ribs in my hand.
What were we thinking?
And I'm eating barbecue. But yeah, that was funny that we were at this nice center. There was a DJ playing music. The place looked so elegant, and the food is
barbecue.
Hickory Hut or whatever it was. Or Rudolph's, or what was it? It was some. It wasn't like a nice. It was some hole in the wall.
Smokehouse.
So it was like this hole in the wall, urban.
It was good though.
This is why this is called City Beats, because an African American wedding, having a reception at the Danish American Center, and then you have food from Smokehouse Barbecue. I can't get no more urban. That's an urban wedding right there.
You got to realize, you had only been out of school 6 months, and I had just finished school in December. We got married in February, so we were on a shoestring budget.
That's true. So for the budget we had, that was pretty wonderful.
And it tastes good.
Yeah, that's right. But I just remember we it was hard to eat.
It was.
Because everybody was staring at us. And then at this wedding reception, people start clinking the glasses, and then you got to kiss. So if you got ribs in your hand, how you going to barbecue chicken in your hand? You can't put that down when they're clinking the glasses and kiss. So, and then we had to dance. And then I'm like, so I remember that night we got to the hotel room and went into the hotel, and I think the first thing we did was order a large pizza.
Pepsi and pizza.
So I remember we had Pepsis and a box, like this large or extra large pizza, and you still had your wedding dress on.
I did.
I still had I took off my jacket, but I took off my bow tie. I still had my tux shirt and vest on, and I can just remember us just a box of pizza in our lap.
Oh yeah.
Sitting on the couch in the hotel room eating pizzas. And we won't talk anything else about that night at the hotel. That's all you need to know about that night. Right on. But anyway, so here we are now, married 26 years. And one of the things I think about is we have seen a lot of people that we thought were deep in love divorce over our 26 years of marriage. I mean, we saw couples that we were at their wedding, and 2 years later they were not together.
Right.
I mean, I've officiated weddings, and I officiated one wedding, and I think in less than a year, they were separated.
There were a few of those.
I was like, man, is it me? So what do you think? Because it's not that we've had a perfect marriage. No. It's not that we've never argued or had stresses or looked at each other and said, So what has kept you in love for 26 years and said, I'm committed to this?
Yeah. I mean, I hate to be cliches, but I would say that it's O but God. I didn't read any books before we got married about what marriage is. We had limited premarital counseling. I mean, we had 6 sessions with the minister who married us, but there was no pre-marriage prep classes that we took. It literally has been the Holy Spirit's leading throughout the course of our relationship, and just honoring the commitment, honoring those vows of, we're here. I'm with Jana, but but deeper than that, we work hard to, one, not go to bed angry with each other. We get to a place of, if we haven't resolved the issue, we get to a place of peace in the issue that we can at least be side by side, because it's you and I together in this thing, and one person can't carry all the weight, but we agree to get to a place of being side by side. I think it also contributes to just open communication, that we talk it out. I mean, if you guys have heard my husband, Efrem Smith, talk, he's a talker, so he's going to talk it out. And we commit to having those hard conversations no matter what. We take the time to listen with our hearts intently to what's at the core of what my mate is saying, and trying to understand from that perspective what that individual is going through, or what their intent was when they did whatever they did, or how they responded the way they did. And in understanding that, you can be able to move forward. But also, we pray together too.
That's good. That's good. I wanted to be a part of something that would last. Because I think that, in relationships, I mean, this is totally coming from a spiritual standpoint. You can live into curses and brokenness and dysfunction and unhealth, or you can lean into inheriting and passing down blessing and legacy. And I think that people that are married should consider 2 things. One, because this came across in your answer, that we have to see love as something bigger than us. I mean, if you believe in God, I mean, we're Christians, but if you're religious, if you're a person of faith, I just think you have to believe that love is bigger than you, that love is ultimately a power source beyond the might, the power of a human being, because there's certain challenges you face in marriage. You can't just, what I would say, just from a human sense, just muscle your way through.
Right.
Just like, we're going to make it work. No, I think that for us, we've truly had to say, God, would you love through us?
Yes.
God, love my wife through me. God, love my husband through me. Like, I need something bigger than me, in me and through me to sustain a marriage. And then I think that the other thing is knowing that that not only do we need something bigger than us, and we need that flowing through us, but that also just knowing that it's not going to be this Disney movie. It's not going to like stop trying to have this like romantic feel from a movie that you saw, and think that's what's good. That's what your marriage is going to be, that your marriage is going to be just like that. Just know that you're going to have some ups and downs. Know that you're going to have challenges. Know that you're going to have stresses. Know that that it's going to be challenging, but it's doable because of that love that's bigger than you.
For sure. I think too, when I think about the images and examples that I saw growing up about what love is and in relationships and marriage, I had 2 sets of images. The one was Ward and June Cleaver from Leave It to Beaver, right?
For me, it was the Brady Bunch. It was Mike and Carol
3.
Brady.
Yeah. Okay, so that's another one. And then the last one was James and Florida Evans on Good
Oh
Times.
my gosh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you have to, so when we talk about, the urban context of relationships, I mean, here are three great examples of looking at a relationship of a husband and wife and their struggles, and how does that speak to you and what your expectations are going into a relationship. When you look at Ward and June Cleaver, you see the wife who's always beautiful and her dress is not crinkled at all, but she's wearing her high heels and she greets her husband and she gives him his newspaper and his slippers and he sits at the table and they have a conversation. Well, then you juxtapose that with you have the Brady Bunch where you have Carol Brady, she's running around with all these kids all day trying to figure out how to make that work. But then you have Florida Evans, right? And James Evans, these two basically blue collar people trying to raise their kids in the projects. And somewhere in there, the common theme is they all have a dialogue with their spouse. In each episode, you see the husband and the wife having these sometimes intense conversations, and it's in different places. With June and Ward, it's typically at the kitchen table, right? With Carol and Mike Brady, it was typically in the bedroom, right?
Yeah.
And with Florida and James, it was right out in the open in the living room.
That's right, because they was in the projects. They didn't have no.
They didn't have much space.
It was funny. I remember a few episodes when James and Florida Evans, it was really tense, and they didn't want to deal with it in front of JJ and Michael and Thelma.
Yes.
So every once in a while, you'd see a bedroom scene where they were really trying to work out a very tense issue. I mean, I don't want to go into detail because I can't remember all the details of it, but I remember an episode where I do remember. It was when James Evans' father was coming to see him and Florida was setting it up. And James did not want to see his dad because his dad had not been in his life.
Right.
And it was this real tense, he was so mad that Florida had set it up for his dad to come see him. And he did not want to see this man because this man had not been in his life. And so that tense scene that they had to work through as a married couple took place in this private place.
Right.
And that makes me think, I'm being all preacher-like now of, how you work out marriage in a private place. Sometimes you got to work your marriage out in a private place with God. And you also have to have a private place. Your marriage there has to be part of it that it's a refuge. That no matter how upset you get with each other or what you're going through, that there's still this private place that you can go to find reconciliation and find love again and find peace and get on one accord.
Absolutely.
Well, you know what? I think we're going to end it right there. This has been, you're going to have to come back.
I would love to.
What I mean? And I think I know how to get in touch with you.
You got my number.
All right. So can I just end like this? Just give you a kiss and say it was such an honor, so cool to have my wife of 26 years on City Beats. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we want you to keep checking us out. City Beats. And you're going to be seeing some episodes that are not just going to be in this location, but are going to be in various places around the city. And you know what? We might even have some episodes down the road out of the country. Say what?
What?
I can't tell you what. We might get on a space shuttle. I don't know what we're going to do on this show. You're going to say, well, if you get on a space shuttle, how is it City Beats? We'll just play some City Beats in the background. I don't know. I just know that you want to keep tuning in. So, God bless you. Thank you for being on the show.
You.
Keep checking out City Beats. God bless.
clear